What a marvelous age we live in.
1927 was a year of many marvels. Moving pictures became talkies, the first television broadcast. New York and London were connected by telephone, and Paris and New York by aeroplane. CBS Radio went on the air. The first coast-to-coast radio broadcast in Canada brought the inaugural ringing of the Peace Tower bells in Ottawa to all Canadians. In Victoria, BC, the royal visit and dedication of the statue of Queen Victoria. Cars finally outnumbered horses. Leah Rogers is mourning her husband Charles, the most famous and beloved chocolatier of the Pacific Northwest.
As we continue our stroll along Government Street, we reach the little chocolate shop of Charles Rogers, to be greeted by his wife, Leah, a very plain woman with a quizzical smile, who welcomes us warmly.
Look at Mom and Charles! It's a train!
You know, the Rogers family is so important in Victoria. Chocolates were in production in the 1800s. They're still in production. There's still visitors who come from all over the world and take home Rogers chocolates.
Part of the glory of Victoria is Rogers chocolates. The family were friends and parishioners here, but friends of Dr. Clay.
Dr. Clay, the pastor, was a very true friend to them both.
Leah wants a memorial to her husband, public but private, suited to his character.
In memory of her beloved husband, she gave the chimes to St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church.
Before Mrs. Rogers paid for all that, they didn't have any chimes in there. She put those chimes in St. Andrew's, and then they built a tower on the side of St. Paul's. She did both of those.
This gift to the community and memorial would not collect seagull droppings. In a universal language, this gift would ring out a declaration to heaven and earth. The bells came by express train from the Deegan factory in Chicago and were in place for Christmas Eve, 1927. Jesse Longfield, widowed earlier that year and spending his first Christmas alone, played songs of celebration and joy on the 8,000-pound instrument.
About 1920, I started taking music lessons. I don't ever remember anybody playing that piano as good as he did. He was just perfect. He is the one I look up to the most.
The bells and clockworks were in the most modern style. The tubular bronze bells tuned to the world standard, championed by Deegan, ringing at programmed times of the day or week, and completely electromechanical. It needed only a single finger from the organist, 200 feet away, to broadcast a continuous announcement and celebration. The cost was $8,000, 8 years' salary for a railway conductor. The bells rang for 11 months until damage to the electrical system was discovered from wind and rain blowing into the belfry. Single tubes fell silent as the apparatus connected to them continued to cause problems. Local electricians were hired to keep the complicated mechanism in working order.
The old electrical system was direct current, and when the systems and expertise changed to AC power, and that was always a concern if the wrong electrician showed up.
Contact knife blade and connector assembly. 3287, coil springs for relay armature. 786, lock nut for striking head.
The brick walls of the bell tower were so thick the bells could not be heard inside the sanctuary. In 1939, a microphone was installed in the bell tower, so the organist could finally hear the bells as they played them. Timing problems with the clock caused the bells to ring at inappropriate times. Nearby hotel guests complained the out-of-tune bells rang all night. But on D-Day, 1944, Cyril Warren, the organist, hearing the news of the Allied invasion, was inspired to perform a series of hymns as a form of public prayer in support of the troops overseas. Crowds gathered in the sanctuary and on the street around St. Andrews for the impromptu concert.
The bells were clearly heard blocks from this site, calling people to worship. Then as a community celebration, armistice or peaceful endings to conflicts.
You used to hear the bells ringing when you were walking along Douglas Street before you got to church.
In 1959, the electrical system was upgraded to 120 volts, 60 hertz. There should have been no problem, but the bells rang all night again.
When the bells got stuck and they would constantly chime, the folks across at the Strathcona Hotel would phone and phone home. And Father would summon Mother to come down here and turn off the electrical powers for the bells, because our neighbors in the hotel were being rung awake all night long. And finally, it got to the point where it was so unreliable that the clock was detached from the bells, but the console still at the organ could be activated by the organist.
Electrical repairs to the clock and bell strikers continued until 1965, when it was decided to let the bells go silent. Musical instruments of this size and caliber are irreplaceable and worth repairing. Only 7 Deegan chimes exist in Canada, and only one is fully functional. It's located about 50 nautical miles away in Vancouver.
As a kid, when I was 5 or 6, they would spark right here along the old Deacon direct currency, and I would wait 15 minutes for the next strikers to go. When I was younger, I didn't mind heights, so we would go up there, mainly avoiding Sunday school, and there was a host of pigeons, and the bells, the organist was playing accompaniment with that, and just, quite frankly, scared us right out of there. And that was the last time we went up into the bell tower.
The bell is one of the older, and certainly is the loudest of musical instruments. Their pure tones resonate strongly with us. Their universal effect cuts through the urban sound mush, a joyful noise, calling and reassuring us. Historically, it represents an example of the first bell scientifically tuned to the New World Standard of A440, proposed by Deegan to the American Federation of Musicians in 1910. The sound of a bell has the power to charm, to amaze, to warn, to frighten, and to lift the spirit.
Well, bells date back to very ancient times and were said to have healing powers.
Their value to the people of Victoria is immeasurable. The restoration of the bell tower chimes at St. Andrews would be a gift to the city and its people, one that calls to mind both the importance of the downtown district in our history and its role today as a beacon of hope in the social, artistic, and commercial renaissance now taking place here.
Great rich sound, marvelous. I can still remember it as a kid. My wish is to have the chimes restored.
Their marriage was a love song from beginning to end. Two very plain, humble people, kindly to others in their own quiet way, and completely devoted to each other.